Hey listeners, Kyle aka Player 2 from Arcade Bros. You are enjoying another show from the Four-Eyed Radio Network, The Fern. For more shows, visit foureyedradio.com.
Starfleet Escape PodCast. Prepare for launch in 3, 2, 1. Enjoy the ride.
Welcome to the Starfleet Escape Podcast on the Four-Eyed Radio Network, where we escape into the Star Trek universe. This is the supplemental episode, A Balance of Terror. This episode is being recorded on November 14th, 2013. I'm Aaron.
And I'm Eric. This episode is brought to you by America Joy Print Shop, official sponsor of the Four-Eyed Radio Network. For high-quality business cards, flyers, banners, cut vinyl, and more, visit americajoy.com.
Hello once again, Eric.
Hello once again, Aaron.
So it seems like we just recorded an episode not too long ago.
Last week, in fact.
But it was a long time in between
So we're making
the
up
other
for
episode.
it.
So we're making up for it. This is a supplemental episode, so those of you who aren't familiar with our supplemental episodes, we take an episode of Star Trek and we basically are putting a commentary track that you can play along with an episode.
Yes, and we've done one for Voyager's Endgame.
Mm-hmm.
You did one with Eric Dewey for yesterday's Enterprise.
Mm-hmm.
So now we are going to do the classic original series episode, A Balance of Terror.
And I didn't realize it was episode 15 of the original series. I thought it was later on.
I actually thought it was earlier in
Really?
the show. Yeah. It's hard to keep track of when these episodes happen. I knew it was in the first season, but I thought it was much earlier in the season.
It's a really great episode.
Yes, as we will soon find out.
Indeed we will.
So how this works is we'll tell you when to hit play, whether you're watching on Netflix or a DVD. We recommend Netflix or DVD just because if you watch on Hulu, you're going to get commercial breaks, and that will disrupt your viewing enjoyment while you listen to us.
It will. And I believe we're watching the remastered versions of the episode.
Yeah, so those are available on the Blu-rays, the remastered DVD, and also Netflix. So if you're watching one of the older ones, we apologize, but we'll probably be commenting at the new effects at some point.
So, without further ado, let's get ready to press play on the count of 3.
All right.
Okay. 1, 2, 3.
The classic shot of the Enterprise.
Isn't she a beaut?
She is. I think this is the first time we see a wedding ceremony in Star Trek.
I believe you're right. Is that a camera? Oh, it is a camera.
It is. I didn't notice that before.
Yeah, I didn't either.
That's a pretty big camera.
Yeah, well, everything's a little bigger in the original series.
That's what she said. These remastered episodes look gorgeous.
They really do. It's really cool to see that they have a chapel aboard the Enterprise.
Yeah, I think they have it for all of the Enterprises, but this is the first time we actually see one.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, if you notice, there's the lighting effect on Kirk's eyes. Where they've got that light band across his eyes.
Oh, yeah.
That's like a classic 50s and 60s. And interestingly enough, they did that in J.J. Abrams' Star Trek on Bruce Greenwood when he first says, punch it. You can see that same lighting effect on his eyes, and that's a callback to this original series. Oh my God, we're having a wedding here.
The music of the original series is awesome too.
It really is. I think this is one of the few times we get to see the command gold dress on a female officer.
Mm,
So as the bride was wearing.
right. This looks so much better remastered.
It does. Honestly, I love the original effects because, I mean, it's the original. It's what they had to work with. And even the original effects looked amazing. But with these remastered versions, it just looks so much better. And I'm glad that they were able to honor the original shots by matching them shot for shot.
Right. Verified.
Sounded kind of ominous.
Indeed.
Scotty knows what's up.
Yeah, he does. And this will be the first episode that we see Romulans.
Yes.
Spoiler alert. And that graphic looks pretty much the same as it did in the original series.
Yeah, it looks like they kept that the same. I wish they did graphics like that more on the view screen.
Mm. So that blinking dot is the Enterprise.
Yes. This line is the most controversial in Star Trek amongst the fans. Because that pretty much says that what happened in Enterprise shouldn't have happened.
Right.
But you can construe Spock's statements in different ways.
You could.
And I do, to justify Enterprise.
Right. Is Spock's lips blue? Or was that just lighting?
I'll have to double check. It could be his makeup because they did try to have him with a green sheen because of his blood. So it could be. Oh no, I think that was lighting.
Okay. Oh, snap. in the space service.
Yeah. That could be pretty general.
Right. I'm not quite sure if... Do they mention Starfleet at all yet? It might not
I
have
believe
been...
so. Yeah, it might not have been a term that they used. I like the actor that portrayed Styles. I think he did a really good job with, what's to come in this episode.
Right. Good foreshadowing.
Yeah. And it's to note at this point in the show, they don't know that the Romulans are related to Vulcans.
Right. Which I kind of have an issue with the JJ verse, how they didn't really react when they saw Romulans on Euroship.
They didn't react immediately, but Spock says the line that, well, now Romulans are clearly related to Vulcans. And, so they acknowledge that they didn't know that Romulans looked like Vulcans before. If you read Spock's line.
Okay.
He says, well, now we know that clearly there is a direct line of heritage between Vulcans and Romulans. So. I thought this was a great scene to have this new couple that we saw in the beginning of the episode, to have them be, to see their story throughout all of this.
Mm-hmm.
It gives more of a face to the lower members of the crew, which we don't see often.
I think the next time the neutral zone or outposts on the neutral zone are attacked are by the Borg.
In the Next Generation, yeah.
Yeah. That doesn't look like a patch. It looks more like a metal pin that he's wearing.
Oh, interesting. But it's still different from Enterprises.
Right.
It could just be a really thick patch. Yeah, I think that's a patch. Oh snap! It's Romulans.
Oh. Oh, those effects are so much better.
Yeah, they are. I actually wish that they did the more of the warbling cloak
The distortion.
that they did. Yeah.
Yeah.
This just kind of like fades out. Yeah.
Yeah.
Although we might be able to contribute that to primitive cloaking.
True.
I don't know.
I think it might have been more of a tip to the hat to the original effect.
The original effects?
Yeah.
I've always liked that blue light around the view screen of the Enterprise.
Hmm. No, they had cloaking technology in Enterprise, right?
Some species did.
Didn't the Romulans in the episode with that mine?
Yes, but Enterprise was able to detect right through it because they used the Suliban cloaking scanners that they got in the premiere.
I see.
I always liked it when Spock called Captain Kirk Jim.
Mm. You can tell he wants revenge.
Yeah, immediately he's like, let's just kill these bastards. And I think Kirk knows that too.
Mm. He's so overt about it.
Yeah. That's kind of a bold assumption.
Yeah, that's a pretty large leap. How would they have gotten aboard undetected?
Right.
Oh, here we go.
Uh-oh.
The reveal. So suspenseful. More of that lighting.
Oh my god.
They look like Vulcans.
Love that shot on Spock. He's like, what the... But Spock, right now, he looked like he just got visual confirmation on what Vulcans suspected.
Mm.
And Styles is giving Spock the dead stare. Spock's like, what?
I didn't do anything.
I didn't do it. Oh.
And that's during the 60s. That's a pretty powerful line.
Yeah, it really is. And that's probably one of my favorite lines in the entire original series.
I agree.
And you know, if Kirk called you Mister, you were in trouble.
I see it. I like the design of the Romulan bird of prey.
I do too. And I wish we got a more futuristic design of that, aside from Enterprise, but like in the Next Generation time.
Mm. Right, there were no bird of preys in the TNG era.
Right, they were called warbirds. Bird of Preys were Klingons at that
Right,
point.
right. And the only smaller ships looked like just smaller birds of prey. I mean, sorry, smaller warbirds.
Yeah. The Romulan commander is played by Mark Leonard, who would go on to later play Spock's father, Sarek.
I guess he liked the prosthetic ears.
I guess so.
Pulled it off well. And you notice the helmets that the
Oh wait,
Romulan. Oh,
that guy right there that just spoke,
mm-hmm,
Lawrence Montague, he would play Stan in Amok Time.
mm-hmm. These helmets, they're wearing them to hide the ears, so they didn't need to do the prosthetic ears. And we'll again see them on Vulcans in future episodes.
Right.
See, his lips are bluish as well.
I think it could be the lighting in the room.
Maybe.
What I like about their costumes, that distinct like checker patterning,
Mm-hmm.
I like that Romulans in the future still keep that style, just modified, and we see that in Next Generation and more closely resembling this in Nemesis.
Right. I believe the sashes denote position or
Mm-hmm.
rank. Ah,
Funny how we never hear that again in Star Trek.
yeah. There's a leather-bound book on the table.
That's another line that is heavily debated among
Right.
Trekkies.
You would need some kind of warp power in order to transverse the uh, amount of space in between the neutral zone and Romulus.
I like how he assumes that Spock is the master of knowledge on the Romulans, but I don't know. His bigotry's really coming through.
Yeah. Mm. That's one of the first times we see a delay in communications, I think.
Yeah. What was that book that he was passing between Scott?
I don't know. Is that a hazmat suit?
Standard engineering suit. I mean, we see those like in the movies. They have those like radiation suits.
That's true.
It's interesting when you're really analyzing these episodes what things you pick up.
Right. This episode really reminds me of Star Trek II: The Wrath of Khan.
Yeah, with the cat and mouse game between the ships and
Mm-hmm.
yeah.
Their bridge is very alien compared to Starfleet bridges.
Yeah, it's a totally different layout where everyone's kind of centered on one focal point. It's interesting to note, however, that they have viewing screens kind of like Spock's science station.
Mm-hmm.
And now here's the tie-in to Enterprise. The NX-01 to Paul's science station had that, and she referred to that as like a Vulcan sensing device. So when it was like that was a Vulcan upgrade to Enterprise for her science station, because it had all of the Vulcan text when she looked into it. There was one shot. So I think that's kind of like a subtle design thing, where even the Romulans have these. So that style of scientific viewer goes back through Vulcan, and that shows another tie with the Romulans. That's just my speculation, but it's kind of nice to see that these designers really keep that together. Oh, here's kind of an error, because they say those are phasers, but they're firing out of the torpedo tubes. And the phasers are acting like depth charges here.
Right.
So that's kind of an error on their part.
Yeah. And this is one of the only times we have that the order is given by the captain and then passed down, and we see that chain of sequence going on.
Right.
Instead of like Kirk just ordering Sulu to fire phasers.
Although the episode, the Corbinite maneuver, comes close because Bailey had phaser drills. And I think doing those orders, it really gives the episode like the submarine versus destroyer feel that we get in this episode.
I think the acting in this scene is really good.
Yeah, it really shows the intensity of this whole situation.
Because sometimes it can come across as campy, the original series.
No, this is one of the great episodes of the original series that really plays that serious, non-camp feel. They had a really large cast with this episode.
Right. I believe these are plasma-based weapons, if I'm not mistaken.
Yes. And this is one of those times where we sense that maybe there might have been something between Rand and Kirk. Unless she's just really scared and he's totally taking advantage of that.
Well, it's, Captain Kirk.
Yeah.
Just in the nick of time. Spock.
That shot's recycled a few times in Star Trek. With Sulu looking back. That shot of the the bird of prey was actually a new shot created. So it wasn't based on an existing shot in the last episode, or in the non-remastered episode.
Gotcha. It was cool to see the hull plates. You could see the it wasn't just all one sheet. It's different sections.
See, that doesn't support Scotty's, that they're simply impulse, because sure, the Romulans got away, but the Enterprise is using maximum warp to catch up with them.
Right. Yeah, these phasers are more like the phasers that we would see in the JJ verse, where they're just bolts, or like the Defiant has the phaser.
The pulse
cannons.
phasers.
Yeah.
The interplay and the strategy between these two captains who never talk face to face, it's more like a battle of the minds.
Mm.
And even though this is the first appearance of the Romulans, they're really establishing their cunning nature.
Mm-hmm.
That will be standard throughout the series.
Right. I'm pretty sure this is the only instance that we see the bird of prey. In subsequent episodes, we see the D7 class from the Klingons used by the Romulans.
Right. Which a lot of fans speculate was a joint venture between the Klingons and the Romulans.
Right. Well, it just went very dark.
They're cutting power.
That would explain it.
Kirk just mentioned that. Pay attention, Aaron.
They're running silent. I see.
Yeah. Although, I don't think he needs to whisper.
Well, I've seen in submarine movies when they do that as well. When they're...
That's to add to the tension.
Yeah.
Well, you just said 9 hours. They're really playing a waiting game.
Hello, Captain. Love that smirk.
It's so great to see the captain struggling with his choice.
The Drake equation.
Mm-hmm.
Well, that depends.
Right. There's so much tension going on.
Yeah. This is just like a submarine movie.
Funny you should say that because the plot of this episode is based on the 1957 movie The Enemy Below, with the Enterprise taking part of an American destroyer and the Bird of Prey with its cloaking device taking part of a submarine.
Oh.
The director of this episode had seen the film but only noticed the differences later when this was pointed out to him. He commented, obviously, it's the same story. The director may have also been inspired by another submarine film called Run Silent, Run Deep.
I'll have to watch these movies.
Yeah. In that movie, there was a similar plot thread of an officer longing for vengeance, as well as the tactic of releasing wreckage and bodies from a damaged vessel in order to mislead the opposing ship.
Shouldn't he know that there's a nuclear warhead aboard? Since he's the commanding officer?
Well, maybe. Or maybe he's too busy leading to, know a total account of everything on the ship.
Well, the ship isn't that big.
Details.
Look at the bridge. Look at the size of the bridge. I think they designed it to look like a submarine bridge. Or to mimic what you would think a submarine would look like. With instead of the periscope coming down, you have those viewers in the center.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I bet you'd like to fire some weapons at the Romulan styles. And Uhura takes navigation.
Who's going to do communications? So we'll stay here and fire.
I think the Romulan commander is more concerned about getting home and wasting that energy. But he has been convinced.
Well, he'd probably be killed if he doesn't.
Yeah, that's true. Wow, Styles, you got some balls telling that to your, commander.
Spock to the rescue. You don't need two people.
No, you don't.
Spock's breathing in toxic fumes and pressing buttons. Oh, that's a good shot.
Yeah, it was really cool. You're right, I do get a Wrath of Khan feel from this episode. Heavily.
Yeah. Especially right now.
Yeah.
Oh man, they should do
That's,
that in the JJ verse.
I love that. They have such great respect for each other, even though they're in this horrible situation.
How many nuclear devices do they have?
Um, the other lieutenant or whatever said that they carried a few nuclear devices on board to self-detonate the ship.
Okay.
So they just used one of those to do the Enterprise, and the rest that he used to blow up.
And then Style sees the error in his ways.
Yeah. Oh, and then the painful realization that they did lose someone. She's praying, so that's one of the few times in Star Trek we see religion come into play on the human side.
That's true.
I think we talked about that in our religion episode.
Indeed.
What a great episode.
It really is one of my favorites of the original series.
I would place it in my top 5 original series episodes. I could watch this one forever.
It's weird because when I was younger, I didn't really like the original series, but this was one of the few episodes that I would watch
Mm-hmm.
and like.
Yeah, I've probably seen this episode 10 or 15 times. It's really good.
Indeed. So I hope everyone enjoyed our little commentary there.
Yes. Maybe email us for suggestions of episodes you might want to hear some commentary on.
But until next time, I'm Aaron.
And I'm Eric.
Live long and prosper.
Thanks for watching. It's episode time.
You have been listening to the Starfleet Escape PodCast on the Four-Eyed Radio Network, where you can catch a new episode every other Monday. You can find us on the web at sfescapepod.com. Follow us on Twitter at sfescapepod. Like us on facebook.com/sfescapepod. And add us to your circle on Google Plus by going to google.sfescapepod.com.
Hi, this is Jeff from the 12A Podcast. Thanks for listening. If you enjoyed this show, please make sure to check out more on foureyedradio.com.